Honey, you're not gonna believe this. I found the most perfect new refrigerator, and it's a steal at $18,750. That was my daughter-in-law, Tiffany, chirping from the other room. My son, Kevin, just gave the price tag a quick once-over. I saw his jaw clench up for just a second, but then he managed a tight smile and a nod. Sounds great, Honorable. But his eyes, they didn't meet mine, and they didn't meet his wife's. They flickered, just for a heartbeat, over to my old leather purse hanging on the back of the dining chair. It was a look that lasted less than a second, but it sent a chill down my spine colder than the January blizzard howling outside. And right then and there, the awful truth hit me like a ton of bricks. To them, I wasn't his mother. I was just a walking, talking piggy bank with no password. My name is Susan Miller. I'm 66 years old, a retired chief accountant living right here in Denver, and this is the story of how I conducted the final, and most important, audit of my entire life. If this story speaks to you, I'd be so grateful if you'd give it a like, share it with someone you think might need to hear it, and maybe even subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Your support truly means the world and keeps us going. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments, and if you've got a story of your own, please, don't be a stranger. The first snow of the season had started to fall over Denver. It wasn't that fierce, biting snow we get in January that screams down from the Rockies. This was a gentle, late November snow, the flakes soft and hesitant, almost like they weren't sure the ground was quite ready for the cold. I was settled into my favorite armchair, the one with the worn flannel that my husband, David, had picked up at an estate sale more than 30 years ago. The house was quiet, a kind of quiet I'd grown used to over the years. It wasn't the gut-wrenching, empty quiet of those first few years after David passed, but a settled-in, peaceful kind of stillness. That peace was shattered the moment Tiffany breezed in from the kitchen. She always moved like a little tornado, trailing a cloud of expensive perfume and the frantic energy of the outside world, a world of deadlines, meetings, and ambitions that never seemed to sleep. Tiffany was, in a word, perfect. Her blonde hair was always perfectly coiffed, her business suits tailored to a T, and her smile, while always bright, never quite seemed to reach her sharp blue eyes. She was like a beautiful, exquisitely carved statue that was just missing a bit of warmth. In her hands, she held a thick, glossy catalog, the kind that feels heavy with importance. She sank onto the sofa across from me, the sofa that she and Kevin had insisted on buying to replace our old, comfortable set. "It brings a more modern, minimalist vibe to the room," she'd said. I never did understand how minimalist could come with such a maximalist price tag. "Mom, you have to see this," Tiffany said, her voice a practiced, persuasive melody. She flipped open to a 2-page spread dominated by a massive stainless steel refrigerator. It was all sharp angles and gleaming surfaces, looking more like something you'd find in a NASA laboratory than a family kitchen. "It's the Viking Pro Series. It's not just a refrigerator, Mom. It's a lifestyle statement, an investment in the family's health, with these special humidity-controlled drawers for produce and meats." I squinted at the tiny print in the corner of the page. $18,750. The number seemed to leap off the page and do a little dance in front of my eyes. It wasn't just a number to me. It was all of David's overtime shifts at the auto shop. It was the hundreds of dresses I'd taken in to alter for the local department stores. It was the family vacations we'd put off, the old car we'd babied along for another few years. It was a lifetime of sweat and sacrifice, all boiled down to a few cold, hard numbers on a shiny piece of paper. "Well, it certainly is big," was all I could manage to say. Just then, Kevin walked in. My boy. He has my brown hair and his father's eyes, but lately, that steady, confident look David always had was missing from his. He wore the tired expression of a 40-year-old man who was running himself ragged trying to live up to expectations he wasn't even sure he could meet. He's in real estate, a feast or famine kind of job that Tiffany always said was beneath his potential. Tiffany immediately pulled him over. "Look, honey, I was just showing Mom the new fridge. Isn't it a dream?" Kevin glanced at the catalog, then his eyes flicked to the price. I saw that muscle in his jaw tighten again, just for a second, before it smoothed out. "Wow, that's really something." he said, his voice a little forced. Great idea, honey. And then it happened. A tiny, almost imperceptible movement that spoke volumes. Kevin's gaze didn't stay on the catalog. It didn't land on me or on his wife. It darted, for less than a second, over to the old oak chair by the dining table, where my worn leather purse was hanging. In that one fleeting glance, I saw everything. I saw the assumption. I saw the well-worn path of least resistance. I saw that in my son's mind, his mother's savings account wasn't a boundary. It was a resource, just waiting to be tapped. The chill I'd felt wasn't just outside anymore. It had crept deep into my bones. The old habits of a chief accountant kicked in, and an invisible balance sheet started to form in my head. On the debit side, I entered one luxury appliance, $18,750, and on the credit side, I entered one look from my son, a loss that no amount of money could ever account for. But Tiffany wasn't finished. She seemed to take my silence as agreement. She snapped the catalog shut and pulled out her iPad. The screen lit up with a slideshow she had clearly spent hours preparing. And one more thing, she said, her voice buzzing with excitement. With Christmas just around the corner, I want to throw a really spectacular party right here. The party of the year. A way to thank all my business partners, and something for the family to be really proud of. She swiped through the slides. The theme was Winter Wonderland. Images of crystal decorations, white candles, silk tablecloths, and food that looked more like art than something you'd actually eat. Then came the budget breakdown. Imported flowers, $1,500. Gourmet catering, $3,000. Live jazz trio, $1,000. Fine wines, $1,500. The grand total at the bottom of the screen was a neat $7,000. We're going to turn this place into a fairy tale, Tiffany sighed dreamily. People will be talking about it for months. Then she swiped to the next slide. Guest list. I leaned in, squinting. There was Tiffany's boss, her biggest clients, the names of some wealthy new friends they'd made at their country club, and of course, Tiffany's parents and siblings. I read through the list twice. My best friend Louise wasn't on it. The Petersons, our neighbors of 40 years, weren't there. Not a single person from my life, from David's life, was on that list. It was my house, but I wouldn't have a single friend at my own party. My throat felt as dry as dust, but I kept my voice even. It sounds elaborate. Kevin came up behind her, placing his hands on her shoulders in that familiar, supportive way. We just want everything to be first class, Mom. Tiffany's worked so hard for this. And then came the final, crushing blow, delivered with a smile and wrapped in the pretty paper of concern, but it was crueler than any direct insult. I know a party this size would be exhausting for you to host, Tiffany said, turning to me with an expression she must have thought was thoughtful. I've been thinking about it a lot. You know my Aunt Martha, up in the mountains? She hasn't been doing so well lately. She's all alone, and I know she'd be so lonely over the holidays. What if you went up to stay with her for a few days, say, from the 23rd to the 26th? It would be a nice change of pace for you, some fresh mountain air. We'll handle everything here. You won't have to lift a finger. Aunt Martha, a distant relative Tiffany hardly ever mentioned, had suddenly become the perfect, convenient excuse. They were shipping me out of my own home, over Christmas, under the guise of a mercy mission to another lonely old woman. They wanted my house, they wanted my money, but they didn't want me. I was to be the silent, invisible benefactor of a party to which I wasn't even invited. I looked at Kevin, searching his face for a flicker of protest, a shadow of doubt in his eyes. There was nothing. He just nodded in agreement. She's right, Mom. You could use the rest. Don't worry about a thing. We've got it covered. In that moment, the image of the little boy I had poured my entire life into vanished. The man standing before me was a stranger, his wife's accomplice, a man who would willingly send his own mother away to make his life a little easier. I managed to smile. It felt stiff and foreign on my face. Let me think on it, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It sounds like a nice idea. Tiffany and Kevin exchanged a look of triumph. They thought they'd won. They thought that at 66, I was too tired to fight, too weak to push back. They had made a classic accounting error. They saw the old woman, but they'd forgotten about the retired chief accountant, the one who could spot fraud in the numbers and irregularities in the bottom line. And my life, at that moment, felt like a year-end report, full of red flags and questionable entries. Long after they'd gone upstairs, I sat there in David's armchair. Outside, the snow was coming down harder now. Darkness had fallen, blurring the familiar shapes in the garden. I got up and walked around the living room, my hand trailing over the old photos on the mantel. Our wedding picture, David and me looking so young and impossibly shy. Kevin on his college graduation day, his smile so full of promise. I had always thought these memories were my assets, the things that made my life rich. But tonight, I realized I'd been reading the ledger all wrong. I had been carrying emotional assets that had long since become bad debt. My unconditional love had been depreciated to zero. My sacrifices hadn't been entered as owner's equity, but as a long-term liability they never intended to repay. I stood at the window, watching the snow blanket the world in white. It looked so peaceful, but inside me, a storm was gathering. The books were open. On the debit side, greed, selfishness, betrayal. On the credit side, love, sacrifice, and the rest of my life. The accounts were dangerously out of balance. And I, Susan Miller, retired CPA, knew one thing for certain. I could not, would not, let the final audit of my life close with a loss this catastrophic. The debits had been posted. Now, it was time to calculate the payables, to the penny. The next few days felt like I was walking through a thick fog. On the surface, nothing had changed. I still got up at the crack of dawn, made the coffee, and sat by the window with the Denver Post as the sun came up. Kevin and Tiffany still rushed around, busy with their own lives, planting hurried kisses on my cheek on their way out the door, asking all the usual empty questions over dinner. But underneath that calm surface, something was eating away at the very foundations of my life. I moved through my own home like an actress in a play I knew by heart, every line, every smile carefully measured so as not to spook the other actors on stage. I was a silent observer at the slow-motion demolition of my own family. The biggest change was in the way I listened. I used to listen with my heart, always trying to hear the love in my son's voice. Now, I listened like an auditor, poring over every word, searching for inconsistencies, for the hidden figures, the doctored truths. I started noticing how Tiffany would casually drop stories about her parents' friends, older folks who were so much happier now that their children were managing their finances. I noticed how Kevin started asking vague questions about my investment portfolio, about where I kept the deed to the house, just in case you ever need me to grab something for you, Mom. They were circling not like hungry wolves ready to pounce, but like patient scavengers, testing for weakness. My chance to pull back the curtain for good came on a Saturday afternoon. It was one of those cold, crisp Denver days, the sky a brilliant, cloudless blue that somehow makes you feel both energized and completely alone. Kevin and Tiffany were heading downtown for some art gallery opening, the kind of see and be seen event Tiffany lived for. I told them I was planning on spending the afternoon in the attic, finally sorting through some of David's old things. It was the perfect cover. After the sound of their car faded down the street, I went to the kitchen and made myself a cup of chamomile tea. The warmth of the mug did little to chase away the chill in my heart. I sat down at the kitchen table, and my eyes landed on Tiffany's laptop, left open on a chair. That was sloppy for her. Usually, her gadgets were guarded like the crown jewels. She must have been in a real hurry to get to her party. A little voice in my head, a voice that sounded a lot like self-preservation, started whispering to me. I knew her password. A few months back, the Wi-Fi had gone out, and she'd rattled it off to me so I could reset the router. She used the same one for everything, a dangerously careless habit for someone so smart. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was quickly replaced by a stronger feeling, the need to know. I typed in the password, Tiff and Kev Forever 21. A bitter little laugh escaped my lips. Forever, indeed. The screen came to life. I wasn't looking to dig through her emails or her private messages. I just needed confirmation, something solid to hold on to, proof that I wasn't just imagining things. I opened her web browser, and her recent search history popped up. Legal process for elder guardianship, Colorado. Early signs of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Top-rated estate planning attorneys in Denver. How to declare a person legally incompetent. Each line was like a physical blow. This wasn't just some half-baked idea. This was a plan, researched and methodical. They didn't just want my money. They wanted to take away my voice, my autonomy, my very right to exist as an independent person. They wanted to turn me into a legal non-entity, a name on a page that they could control completely. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. A wave of nausea washed over me. I stumbled out to the back porch, gulping in the cold, sharp air. I needed to feel something real after being confronted with such a monstrous lie. I stood by David's rose bushes, their thorny, leafless canes reaching up to the pale sky. They looked so tough, so ready to endure the winter. I wondered if I had that same strength in me. And then I heard it, a faint ringing from the kitchen. She'd forgotten her phone, too. On pure instinct, I went back inside. The screen was lit up with a name, Sarah Sis. I knew I shouldn't. My mind was screaming, no, but my hand had a mind of its own. I swiped to answer and put it on speaker, quickly setting the phone down on the counter as if it were a hot potato. I backed away, half hiding in the doorway to the living room, my heart hammering against my ribs. Hey, Tiff, you on your way? It was her sister, Sarah, her voice tinny through the speaker. I'm here, Tiffany's voice replied, clear as day. She must have been on her car's Bluetooth. I left my phone at home like an idiot. What's up? Oh, nothing. Just wanted to see how things were going. Is the plan still a go? Has the old lady suspected anything? Her? Tiffany let out a short, cold laugh. She's bought the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. She's like a little lamb, Sarah. Believes every word I say. She actually thinks she's going to visit Aunt Martha for Christmas. It's almost sad. I bit down on my lip, hard. I could taste the metallic tang of blood. So when are you making the next move? Sarah asked. With the lawyer? Soon, Tiffany said, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. I've looked into it. All we need are a few more documented senior moments. I'll set up a few things, make it look like she left the stove on, or lost her wallet again. Then I'll suggest a checkup with a doctor. Once we get a note from a psychiatrist about her cognitive decline, we can file for guardianship. It'll be a piece of cake. There was a pause, and then Tiffany's voice dropped, thick with a greed she didn't even try to hide. This house, all that money, it should have been ours years ago. It's just sitting there, wasted on an old woman who doesn't even do anything. We're the ones who need it, Sarah. We're the ones building a future. It's a misallocation of resources, A misallocation of resources. That's what I was. The woman who had given her a home, who had spent a lifetime making sure her son had every opportunity, was a misallocation of resources. The world went silent. The sound of the traffic outside, the wind in the trees, Sarah's voice on the phone. It all just faded into a dull roar. The only thing I could hear were Tiffany's words, echoing in my head like a judge's sentence. I quietly reached out and ended the call. I placed the phone back on the counter, right where she'd left it, and cleared the call log. I closed the laptop. I made everything look exactly as it had been, but nothing was the same. Something inside me had broken, and in its place, something hard and cold had begun to form. The shock, the hurt, it was all still there, but it had crystallized into a single, sharp point of resolve. There were no more maybes, no more what-ifs. The curtain had been pulled back, and the ugly truth was laid bare. This wasn't about love anymore. It wasn't about respect. Those things were gone, dead and buried. This was about survival. It was about fighting for my right to live out my years with dignity, to make my own choices, to protect the legacy David and I had worked our whole lives to build, a legacy of honesty and hard work. I walked back to my little study, but this time, I didn't reach for the old photo albums. I took out a brand new accounting ledger, the kind with the crisp green-lined pages I knew so well. At the top of the first page, I wrote in neat, block letters, "Final audit." Then I started making a list. Call lawyer. Emergency appointment. Monday. Gather all financial documents, deed, bank statements, investment portfolio, insurance papers. Research. irrevocable trust. Counter strategy for cognitive decline narrative. As I wrote, my hand was perfectly steady. The accountant in me was back in charge. Every line was a calculated step. There was no room for emotion, just logic, strategy, and the bottom line. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the Denver sky in shades of deep purple. The city lights began to flicker on in the distance. The house was dark and quiet, but in my little study, the desk lamp cast a bright, steady glow on the page, on the cold, hard, beautiful facts. A heavy silence fell over the house after I put Tiffany's phone back on the kitchen counter, a silence that felt different from the peaceful quiet of just a few hours before. This silence had weight. It pressed down on the air, seeping into the corners of the rooms, thick with the residue of betrayal. I just stood there, in the middle of the kitchen, listening to the steady tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the living room. Each tick felt like a dry, hollow heartbeat, counting down not the minutes, but the final collapse of the world I had spent my life building. I didn't sleep a wink that night. After I'd cleaned up from dinner and wished Kevin and Tiffany a good night with a smile that felt like it was carved on my face, I retreated to my little study. This had always been David's sanctuary, and after he was gone, it became mine. The walls were lined with his old oak bookshelves, crammed with books on history and finance, and all the classic novels we both loved. It always smelled faintly of old paper and the pine of his big, sturdy desk. Tonight, my sanctuary had become my war room. I didn't turn on the overhead light, just the small desk lamp that cast a warm, yellow circle on the fresh page of the new accounting ledger I'd labeled The Project. I sat down in David's old leather chair, feeling its familiar, solid presence. I closed my eyes, and a flood of memories washed over me. Kevin as a little boy, his laughter echoing as he ran across the backyard trying to get a kite to fly. Kevin in his cap and gown, his eyes shining with all the promise in the world. Kevin on his wedding day, stepping on my toes as we danced, whispering in my ear, "You'll always be my number one girl, Mom." A single hot tear escaped and rolled down my cheek, landing on the crisp paper with a soft splat. It was the last tear I allowed myself. The man who had said those words was gone. Or maybe he never really existed at all, just a lovely mirage created by my own foolish, motherly love. I brushed the tear away. Emotions were a liability now, a luxury I couldn't afford. From this point on, it was all about the numbers. I opened my laptop. My fingers, usually busy with knitting needles or garden gloves, flew across the keyboard. Irrevocable trust. Elder law attorney. Denver. Asset protection. I devoured dozens of articles, legal forums, case studies. The more I read, the clearer the path forward became. They wanted to play a legal game of chess, and they thought I was just a helpless pawn. They had no idea I'd spent my entire career mastering the rules of the game. All through the night, I didn't just read, I wrote. The pages of my ledger started to fill up. I created a meticulous timeline of events, from the conversation about the refrigerator to the exact wording of the phone call I'd overheard. I used my phone to take a picture of Tiffany's search history on her laptop. Every detail was a line item, another piece of evidence for my case. This wasn't a heartbroken mother lashing out. This was an auditor, gathering documentation for the most important investigation of her life. When the first pale light of Sunday morning crept through the windows, I had a plan. I was bone-tired, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. I closed the ledger, locked it in the desk drawer, and went to my room for an hour of sleep before the rest of the house woke up. Sunday breakfast was horribly, terrifyingly normal. I made blueberry pancakes, Kevin's favorite since he was a little boy. Tiffany, probably feeling a little sheepish about having been so careless with her electronics, was sickeningly sweet. "Mom, these pancakes are the best," she chirped, her mouth full of syrup. "You put all the restaurants in town to shame." "You're working too hard, Mom," Kevin added, not looking up from the sports page. "We should book you a spa day next weekend." I just smiled. "Thank you, dears. That's so thoughtful." I sat there, passing the butter, refilling their coffee cups, listening to them chatter about some movie they'd seen. And all the while, my head was buzzing with legal terms, names of law firms, and strategies. I felt like a spy in my own home, living a double life. On the outside, I was a sweet, slightly dotty old lady. On the inside, I was a cold, calculating strategist, biding my time. It gave me a strange sense of power. They thought they were running the show, but I was the one who knew the real script. I had to endure the rest of Sunday. It felt like the longest day of my life. I let Tiffany drag me out to the garden to listen to her plans for re-landscaping in the spring. I watched the Broncos game with Kevin, pretending to understand what was going on. I played my part to perfection. Monday morning, the second their car was out of sight, I made my move. My heart was thumping a little faster than usual, but my hand was steady as I picked up the phone and dialed the number for Davies and Associates. Davies and Associates, how can I help you? A calm, professional voice answered. Hello, I said, my own voice just as steady. My name is Susan Miller. I need to schedule an urgent appointment with Mr. Davies regarding estate planning and asset protection. Of course, Mrs. Miller. Mr. Davies has an opening at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Would that be convenient for you? 2 o'clock would be perfect. I'll be there. The appointment was set. The first domino had fallen. A wave of relief washed over me. I wasn't in this alone anymore. I arrived at the sleek downtown office building at 1:45. Mr. Davies' office was on the 20th floor, with a breathtaking view of the snow-dusted Rockies. The reception area was quiet and felt important. Polished wood floors, walls covered in framed degrees, the faint, reassuring smell of leather and old books. It was the complete opposite of the chaos my life had become. A man in his late 50s with kind eyes behind tortoiseshell glasses came out to greet me. He wasn't overly friendly, but he had a firm, warm handshake that immediately put me at ease. Mrs. Miller, I'm James Davies. Please come in. He led me not to the giant, intimidating desk that dominated his office, but to a small, comfortable seating area with a coffee table between us. It was a small thing, but it made me feel like he was there to listen, not to lecture. Can I get you some coffee? Tea? He asked. No, thank you, Mr. Davies. I'd like to get right down to business. A small, knowing smile touched his lips. He sat down across from me, a legal pad and a pen in his hand. I'm all ears, Mrs. Miller. Tell me everything. And I did. I didn't cry. I didn't get hysterical. I opened my project ledger and laid out the facts, one by one, like I was presenting a fraud case to a board of directors. I started with the refrigerator. I told him about the party. I showed him the pictures of Tiffany's search history on my phone. And I recounted, word for word, the conversation I had overheard between Tiffany and her sister. Mr. Davies listened patiently, never interrupting. He just took notes, his pen flying across the page. I could see a muscle tightening in his jaw as I told him about the misallocation of resources, but his expression remained professional. When I finally finished, the only sound in the room was the wind whistling softly against the window. He let out a long, slow breath. Well, Mrs. Miller, he said, his voice full of a quiet empathy that was much more comforting than pity. First, let me say how sorry I am that you're going through this. No one should ever have to face this kind of betrayal, especially from their own children. He paused, then his tone shifted, becoming sharp and analytical. But I have to tell you, the way you've documented everything, the methodical way you've gathered your facts, it's extraordinary. You haven't come to me as a victim. You've come to me as a client who's already done half the work. His words were like a balm to my frayed nerves. He didn't see me as a helpless old woman. He saw me as a competent, intelligent person. In that moment, I knew I had found my ally. What your son and daughter-in-law are planning, he continued, isn't just heartless, it's illegal. We could pursue charges for conspiracy and elder abuse, but that would be a long, messy, and painful process for you. I have a better idea, a quieter, more elegant solution. We're not going to tear down their plans. We're going to build you an unbreachable fortress. And then he explained it to me. An irrevocable trust. He drew diagrams, explained the legal jargon in plain English. He showed me how, by transferring my assets into the trust, I would no longer legally own them. I would be the sole beneficiary for the rest of my life, with the absolute right to live in my house and use the funds, but no one, not Kevin, not Tiffany, not any court trying to declare me incompetent, could ever touch the principal. It's a legal firewall, he explained. They can bring in all the doctors and lawyers they want, but they won't be able to get their hands on a single dime. Your fortress will be built out of the law itself, and it will be absolutely impenetrable. I listened, a sense of calm and control settling over me for the first time in weeks. The vague, helpless fear was gone, replaced by a cold, clear sense of purpose. What do I need to do? I asked. Get me copies of all the documents you've gathered. I'll start drafting the trust agreement. In the meantime, he said, looking me straight in the eye, you have the hardest job of all. You have to keep playing the part. Be the sweet, slightly confused mother they think you are. Don't let them suspect a thing. Their arrogance is our greatest advantage. I nodded. I can do that. I left his office as the sun was setting, turning the snow on the mountains a beautiful shade of pink. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, just breathing in the cold, clean Denver air. I didn't feel lonely anymore. I felt alive. The weight on my shoulders was still there, but now it had a name, and it had a plan. I wasn't a leaf being tossed about in the storm anymore. I was the storm. On the way home, I stopped at a stationery store and bought myself a new set of pens, the good kind. It was time to get to work. The next few days turned my house into a strange sort of stage. To Kevin and Tiffany, I was the Susan they wanted and expected to see. A sweet but fading woman, a little tired, a little confused, slowly relinquishing control of her life. I became a master of subtle proof. I'd accidentally leave my reading glasses in the refrigerator. I'd carefully water the plastic ferns Tiffany had insisted on buying. I'd ask the same question about their dinner plans 3 times in a single evening. Each time, I'd catch them exchanging a quick, knowing glance, a look that was a sickening mix of pity and triumph. They were meticulously collecting evidence for their narrative, completely oblivious to the fact that I was doing the exact same thing. But the moment I closed my study door, a different Susan emerged. The room became my headquarters, David's old desk my command center. I spent hours poring over a lifetime of financial documents, stacks of old bank statements, insurance policies yellowed with age, stock certificates carefully tucked away, and the deed to the house. Each piece of paper represented a brick in the life David and I had built, a life of hard work, careful saving, and quiet dreams. Holding them, I felt the weight not of money, but of memories, and the fierce, protective responsibility I had to honor them. Mr. Davies was a whirlwind. Just 2 days after our meeting, he emailed me the first draft of the trust documents. I read every single word, 3 times over, with the same sharp eye I used to use on year-end corporate reports. The Miller Legacy Irrevocable Trust. The name sounded so formal, so final. It was perfect. It drew a clear, bright line between Susan Miller, the mother, and the assets that needed protecting. My secret trips became more frequent. I'd tell Kevin and Tiffany I was off to my book club or to volunteer at the church library. In reality, I was making trips to the bank, the brokerage firm, and to Mr. Davies' office. Each trip was a calculated move in my quiet campaign. The trip to my longtime bank was the hardest. Mrs. Henderson, the branch manager, was a woman my own age. She'd known our family for 40 years. "Susan, so good to see you," she'd greeted me warmly. "How is that handsome son of yours?" "He's doing just fine, Martha," I said, keeping my voice light. "I'm just here to do a little financial housekeeping." In the privacy of her office, I laid out my plan. I wanted to transfer the vast majority of my life savings to a new account at a different institution, an account in my name only. I would leave only a small, manageable amount in my current checking account. Mrs. Henderson looked concerned. "Is everything all right, Susan? Has there been a problem?" I had my story ready. "Oh no, nothing like that. I'm just simplifying things. Kevin's so busy, I don't want him to have to worry about managing all this for me down the road." It was a half-truth, but it was enough. The transfer took nearly an hour. Watching those large numbers drain from the account I'd had since David and I were first married, I didn't feel a sense of loss. I felt lighter. As if I'd moved my life's treasures from a house with a broken lock to a secure, secret vault. Next was the brokerage firm. Then, finally, the most important signing of my life, back in the quiet solemnity of Mr. Davies' office. He had the documents spread out on his gleaming mahogany conference table. "Once you sign this, Susan," he said, his voice gentle but firm. There's no going back. The trust becomes its own legal entity. You are the beneficiary, but you are no longer the direct owner. Are you absolutely certain this is what you want to do? I looked out his window at the Denver skyline, at the mountains standing strong and solid in the distance. I had spent my life building a nest for others. Today, I was building a fortress for myself. I'm certain, I said, my voice clear and steady. I took the heavy fountain pen he offered and signed my name, Susan Miller. My hand, which had started to develop a slight tremor in recent years, was as firm as a rock. With each stroke of the pen, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. I was signing my own Declaration of Independence. On the way home, I didn't go straight back. I drove to Washington Park and sat by the lake, watching the ducks glide across the water. A deep, profound sense of peace settled over me. The fortress was built. Its foundations were solid law, its walls were made of secrecy, and its gate was guarded by a brilliant attorney and one very underestimated old woman. But there was one last, crucial step. I had to set the bait. The next day, I went back to my old bank and saw Mrs. Henderson. I told her I'd decided to open a small, separate savings account just for emergencies. I deposited exactly $20,000 into it. Then, I had her link the credit card that Kevin and Tiffany sometimes used for my errands directly to that new, modest account. It's just easier this way, I explained with a dotty smile. Now, when they checked my finances, and I knew they would see a picture that made perfect sense. A large sum of money was gone, which they'd attribute to my forgetfulness or foolish spending. But there was still a nice little nest egg left, just enough to keep them interested, just enough to make them feel like their prize was still within reach. It was the cheese in the mousetrap. When I got home, the house was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now. I was no longer a prisoner here. I was the warden. I walked through the rooms, my hand on the walls. This wasn't just a house anymore. It was my sovereign territory, and I was ready to defend it. That night at dinner, Tiffany was bubbling with plans for the party. I went ahead and paid the deposit for the caterers, she announced. They'll need the final payment by the 20th. Don't worry, Mom. I'll just put it on your card to make things simple. Of course, dear, I said, smiling sweetly. You just do whatever you need to do. I saw the triumphant glint in her eye. She thought she was pulling my strings. She had no idea she was the one dancing at the end of mine. My easy agreement to foot the bill for everything from the party to the refrigerator seemed to convince Kevin and Tiffany that my surrender was complete. Their confidence made them careless, and their campaign to prove my decline shifted from subtle manipulation to a full-blown, systematic assault. It started with small, staged incidents. One morning, I came into the kitchen to the faint smell of gas. Tiffany rushed in behind me, a look of theatrical panic on her face. "Oh, Mom, you left the burner on all night again. We could have all been killed in our sleep." I knew I hadn't. My nightly triple check of the stove was as ingrained as brushing my teeth. It was clear she had snuck down and turned it on herself. But I played my part, my eyes wide with confusion and guilt. Oh dear, I don't remember doing that at all. I am getting so forgetful. Kevin, conveniently appearing at the top of the stairs, overheard. His feigned concern was more chilling than any anger. "Mom, you have to be more careful. Maybe it's best if Tiffany just handles all the cooking from now on. We don't want you to overexert yourself." They were systematically stripping me of my independence, one caring suggestion at a time. A few days later, my wallet disappeared from my dresser. After a frantic, 15-minute performance of searching on my part, it was Tiffany who found it in the back of the pantry, tucked inside the flour canister. "Oh, Mom," she sighed, holding it up for Kevin to see. "We really need to talk about getting you some help. I'm so worried." They were building their case, and I saw Tiffany jotting down notes in a little black book she kept in her purse, her evidence log for the lawyer, I presumed. Then came the propaganda phase. Glossy brochures for luxury senior living communities started appearing on the coffee table. These weren't nursing homes. They were 5-star resorts for the elderly, complete with golf courses and art classes. "A friend of mine, her mother lives here," Tiffany would say, pointing to a picture of smiling, silver-haired ladies playing bridge. "She says it's the best decision she ever made." No cooking, no cleaning, 24/7 medical staff. It's like a permanent vacation. We just want you to be safe and happy, Mom, Kevin would add, his voice oozing with false sincerity. They weren't trying to sell me on a paradise. They were trying to lock me in a gilded cage so they could get their hands on everything else. The climax of their campaign came one evening as we were watching the news. There was a segment on financial scams targeting senior citizens. Kevin clicked off the TV. He turned to me, his face a mask of serious concern. See, Mom? It's a dangerous world out there. It's so easy for people your age to be taken advantage of. I worry about you and about your savings. I'm very careful, Kevin, I said. But you can have a lapse in judgment, Tiffany chimed in. One little mistake, and your entire life savings could be gone. I really think it's time we put a better system in place. What kind of system? I asked, my voice trembling just enough. Kevin took a deep breath, as if he were about to propose something monumental. What if you let me be a co-signer on your bank accounts? Just so I can help you keep an eye on things, make sure there are no fraudulent charges. You'd still be in control, of course. It would just be an extra layer of security. There it was, the opening move in their endgame. They were making their play for my financial freedom. I looked at my son, the boy I had taught to be honest and self-reliant, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him when he had become this stranger, this conman using the language of love to swindle his own mother. But I held my tongue. An outburst would ruin everything. I had to see the play through to the end. I pretended to be conflicted. I don't know, Kevin. All that paperwork is so complicated. I've always handled my own affairs. And that's why you need the help, Tiffany said, jumping in. Kevin's so good with this stuff. It's really for the best, Mom. I let the silence hang in the air for a long moment, watching the hungry anticipation in their eyes. Finally, I let out a long, defeated sigh. All right, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Maybe you're right. I'm not as sharp as I used to be. It would be a load off my mind to know you were looking out for me. The relief that washed over Kevin's face was instantaneous. Tiffany practically glowed with triumph. They thought they'd won. They thought I was handing them the keys to the kingdom. They had no idea I was handing them the key to an empty castle. That conversation changed everything. They dropped their guard completely. They started openly discussing my finances in front of me, using jargon they were sure I wouldn't understand, talking about reallocating assets and optimizing returns. I just sat and nodded, playing the part of the clueless old woman, while a cold, hard knot of contempt tightened in my stomach. The reconnaissance phase was over. They thought they had identified all my weaknesses and breached my defenses. They had no idea they were just marching in circles around the impenetrable walls of my fortress, drawn in by the one, deliberately unlocked gate I had left open for them. My agreeing to let Kevin help with my finances was the turning point. A false calm settled over the house, the kind of quiet you get right before a tornado hits. For Kevin and Tiffany, it was the sweet smell of victory. They started acting as if the house and everything in it were already theirs. I knew a verbal agreement wouldn't be enough for them. They needed a legal document, something to wave in front of a bank manager, and I was going to make sure they got their chance to get it. I wasn't just going to let them spring a trap. I was going to help them build it, making sure it was strong enough to hold them when it finally snapped shut. A few nights later, I pushed the first domino. I'm just so tired lately, I sighed over dinner. All these bills and bank statements, my head just spins. Tiffany, ever the opportunist, jumped right in. That's exactly why we need to get things in order, Mom. I'm going to make an appointment for you with our family lawyer. A lawyer? I asked, feigning confusion. What on earth for? Just to sign a few simple papers, Mom, Kevin said smoothly. A power of attorney. It would let me handle things at the bank for you, so you wouldn't have to bother with any of it. It's just to make your life easier. Well, that does sound easier, I conceded, but I don't know any lawyers. This was my cue. I'll think about it. But first, I want to meet this lawyer of yours, just to make sure everything is on the up and up. I stressed the words, up and up, knowing it would sound like the naive caution of a trusting old woman. They were practically giddy with relief. My suggestion to meet their lawyer was better than they could have hoped for. It made their whole scheme look like my idea. Of course, Mom, Tiffany beamed. His name is Mr. Finch. He's wonderful. You'll love him. Mr. Finch, the name was duly noted. That night, I sent a coded text to Mr. Davies. They're bringing in a lawyer, a Mr. Finch. The play has begun. His reply came back within minutes. Got it. Finch. We'll check him out. Agree to the meeting. Let them think they're in control. The meeting was set for the following Thursday. In a brief, clandestine call from a payphone, Mr. Paldino, Davies gave me the rundown. Finch is a corporate lawyer, not an elder law specialist. He has a reputation for being creative with family disputes. She picked her man well. So what's our move? I asked. We don't fight him head on, Mr. Davies said. We use him. I'm hiring a private investigator. He'll pose as your longtime financial advisor, an old friend of your husband's. He'll accompany you to the meeting, and his presence will force them to lay all their cards on the table. He'll also be wearing a wire. The entire meeting will be legally recorded. The plan was brilliant. It turned their weapon into my shield. On the day of the meeting, I dressed the part of a wealthy widow, a tasteful tweed suit, a string of pearls. I met Mr. Peterson, the investigator, for coffee beforehand. He was a distinguished-looking man in his late 60s, with a kind face and sharp eyes. He was perfect. Kevin and Tiffany were surprised to see me with a companion. "Mom, who's this?" Kevin asked. "Oh, this is Mr. Peterson, a dear old friend of your father's," I said brightly. "He's been helping me with my investments for years. I asked him to come along just to make sure I understand all this legal mumbo-jumbo." Tiffany gave Mr. Peterson a suspicious once-over, but his harmless professional demeanor quickly put her at ease. In fact, she seemed pleased. It only confirmed their belief that I was a doddering old fool who couldn't make a decision on her own. Mr. Finch's office was all chrome and abstract art. He was a slick, smooth-talking man with a shark's smile. He launched into a long speech about Kevin and Tiffany's deep love and concern for my well-being. Then he presented the documents, a sweeping, durable power of attorney that would give Kevin absolute control over every aspect of my life, both financial and medical. That's when Mr. Peterson spoke up. "Mr. Finch," he said, his voice calm and reasonable, "this is a very powerful document. Are there any provisions for oversight? A third-party review, perhaps, to ensure Mrs. Miller's wishes are always being honored?" Finch was momentarily flustered. "Well, this is a family matter. We're operating on trust here." Kevin jumped in, eager to prove his good intentions. "Mr. Peterson, you have to understand, my mother's memory isn't what it used to be. This is to protect her from making a mistake." "That's right," Tiffany added, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "We just want to protect her from herself." Every word they said, every admission of their intent to exploit my cognitive decline, was being captured by the tiny microphone hidden in Mr. Peterson's tie clip. They were tightening the noose around their own necks. The meeting ended with nothing signed. I told them I needed to discuss it further with Mr. Peterson. They were disappointed, but confident that it was just a matter of time. As Mr. Peterson and I parted ways, he gave me a discreet thumbs up. "We got it all," he whispered. The trap had been set, and they had walked right in. The last few days before Christmas, the quiet in the house was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The living room, which Tiffany had transformed into a sterile winter wonderland, felt cold and lifeless. The giant Christmas tree, dripping with silver and white ornaments, looked like an unwelcome guest. Kevin and Tiffany had lost all pretense of patience. The party was looming, bills were coming due, and my trip to visit Aunt Martha was scheduled for the 23rd. They needed my signature, and they needed it now. "Have you thought about the papers, Mom?" Kevin asked every morning, his voice tight with frustration. "Mr. Finch said it takes time to file everything." "I'm still thinking, dear," I'd murmur, not looking up from my book. Tiffany tried to turn up the heat. "The caterer called again, Mom. They need the final payment. If Kevin had power of attorney, he could have just handled it. Now I have to bother you with it. They were trying to wear me down, to make me feel like a burden." The morning of the 23rd, my little suitcase was packed and waiting by the door. They cornered me in the living room. The stack of legal documents was on the coffee table, a fancy pen laid neatly beside it. "Mom, before you go," Kevin said, trying to sound gentle, Let's just get this taken care of. Then you can relax and not worry about a thing. Tiffany put a hand on my shoulder. It'll only take a minute, Mom. I looked at the top page. Durable power of attorney. I knew what was buried beneath it. The guardianship petition, the medical directives. They were hoping I wouldn't read the fine print. Let me just read it over one more time, I said, my hand trembling slightly for effect. Mr. Peterson was very clear. Never sign anything without reading it thoroughly. The mention of Mr. Peterson threw them. Annoyance flickered across Tiffany's face. Mom, your bus leaves in 2 hours. Then I'll take the next one, I said calmly. Or I'll go tomorrow. This is too important to rush. Their carefully laid plan was starting to unravel. They had counted on my being flustered and compliant. They had no backup plan for last-minute resistance. But the party, Kevin stammered. And Aunt Martha. The party will be fine, and Aunt Martha will understand, I said. I started flipping through the pages, pretending to read. This section here, about unconditional authority, what exactly does that mean? It sounds so permanent. They exchanged a panicked look. They had been coached on how to get my signature, not on how to explain complex legal clauses. Finally, I put the papers down. I'm sorry, I said, my voice firm. I can't sign this today. I have to have Mr. Peterson look it over first, after the holidays. No, Tiffany burst out, her composure finally cracking. Everything's already been arranged. Then you'll have to unarrange it, I said, my voice as cold as the snow outside. Or figure it out yourselves. I will not be bullied into signing away my life. I stood up and walked to my suitcase. I could feel their stunned, furious eyes boring into my back. Mom! Kevin's voice was sharp. I paused at the door. You really don't trust me? The hurt in his voice was real, but it was the hurt of a spoiled child being denied a toy, not the pain of a son whose mother had lost faith in him. I didn't turn around. Trust, Kevin, I said, my voice quiet but clear, is like a bank account. You can't keep making withdrawals without making a few deposits, and lately, your account has been running dangerously low. I spent the 23rd and the morning of the 24th in a small, clean hotel room downtown. I didn't call Aunt Martha. I didn't call anyone. I needed the quiet. I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. I knew Tiffany wouldn't cancel the party. Her ego wouldn't allow it. I also knew that the bait account I had set up had less than $1,000 left in it. The final payments for the caterer, the band, the wine, they were all due on the 24th. The stage was set. Around 11 a.m., my phone rang. It was the catering manager. Mrs. Miller, Tiffany's credit card was declined for the final payment of $3,500. She says it's your account and that you need to authorize the charge. Oh dear, I said, feigning confusion. A charge that large? I'm not sure how to do that, and I'm out of town, visiting family. Well, ma'am, our policy is clear. If we're not paid by noon, we have to pack up and leave. Oh, what a shame, I said, my voice dripping with false sympathy. Well, I suppose Tiffany and Kevin will have to figure something else out. I'm on vacation. You have a very Merry Christmas now. I hung up, my heart pounding. An hour later, Kevin called, screaming. Mom, what did you do? The account is empty. The caterers left. The band canceled. The guests are arriving. You've ruined everything. I don't know what you're talking about, Kevin, I said calmly. Perhaps you should use your own money. It is your party, after all. Our money? He roared. You know we don't have that kind of cash. You're deliberately humiliating us. I'm not doing anything, Kevin. I'm just on vacation. Just like you wanted. Tiffany snatched the phone. You evil old woman. You will regret this, she hissed, and the line went dead. I could picture the scene. The guests arriving in their finest, expecting a winter wonderland, and finding chaos. A half-decorated house, no music, no food. I could see Tiffany's frozen smile as she tried to explain away the technical difficulties. Her dream party, her lifestyle statement, had turned into a humiliating public disaster. They had flown too close to the sun on wings of greed, and I had simply refused to be their fuel. They hadn't fallen because I pushed them. They had fallen under the weight of their own lies. I returned home on Christmas afternoon, unannounced. The house looked like the aftermath of a sad, failed battle. The living room was a wreck of half-empty glasses and wilting decorations. Kevin and Tiffany were sitting on the sofa amidst the debris, silent and sullen. The sound of my key in the lock made them jump. "Look what the cat dragged in," Kevin sneered. "You have some nerve showing your face here," Tiffany spat. "You ruined us. You made us a laughingstock." I calmly set down my bag. "The money is safe, Kevin," I said, my voice quiet but carrying the weight of authority. "It's safe from you." Their faces went pale. You knew?" Tiffany whispered. "I knew everything," I said, and I laid it all out for them. The refrigerator, the party, the plan to ship me off to Aunt Martha's, the guardianship research, the phone call. As the color drained from their faces, the door to my study opened, and Mr. Davies walked out, followed by Mr. Peterson. Tiffany pointed a shaking finger at him. You're our lawyer." "I'm afraid not, ma'am," he said, holding up the pen recorder. "I'm a private investigator, and I have a full recording of our little meeting, where you detailed your plans to have your mother declared incompetent." Mr. Davies stepped forward. "I am Mrs. Miller's attorney," he said, his voice like cold steel. "We have more than enough evidence to press charges for conspiracy and elder fraud. Furthermore, all of Mrs. Miller's significant assets have been transferred into an irrevocable trust. Legally, she no longer owns them. Any attempt to gain guardianship is now moot." It was a checkmate. Kevin crumpled onto the sofa, his head in his hands. Tiffany, cornered, lashed out. "You tricked us. You set up your own son." "No," I said. "You set your own trap. I just refused to walk into it." "Mrs. Miller has generously decided not to pursue criminal charges," Mr. Davies said, his voice cutting through the tension. "On one condition. You have 7 days to pack your things and leave this house permanently. If you are not gone by then, this entire file goes to the district attorney." It was a final, irrevocable judgment, not from a court, but from a mother. They were gone in 7 days. There were no apologies, no goodbyes. Tiffany left without a backward glance. Kevin paused at the door, his eyes filled with a terrible, hollow shame. "Mom," he started, but the words wouldn't come. He just shook his head and walked away. The moment the door closed behind him, I felt the weight of the world lift from my shoulders. I threw open the windows, letting the clean, cold air sweep through the house, clearing out the last remnants of their lies. The next morning, Christmas morning, I woke up to a quiet house filled with sunlight. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat in my armchair, feeling not lonely, but whole. Mr. Davies stopped by with a gift basket and some news. Kevin and Tiffany were in a small rental across town. Tiffany's career had taken a major hit after the party fiasco. They were drowning in credit card debt. Their carefully constructed house of cards had come crashing down. Later, my friend Louise and the Petersons from next door came over, their arms loaded with food and their faces full of warmth. We had a simple, joyful Christmas dinner together. It was the best Christmas I'd had in years. In the months that followed, I started to rebuild my life. I took that pottery class I'd always dreamed of. I reconnected with old friends. I found joy in the simple things: a walk in the park, a good book, the quiet peace of my own home. The final audit of my life was complete. I had posted a major loss, the loss of my son as I knew him. That ache would always be there, but the gains, I realized, were so much greater. I had gained back my dignity, my peace, and my self-respect. I had rediscovered myself. One afternoon, I opened my project ledger one last time. On the final page, I wrote in a clear, steady hand: accounts reconciled, balance due, $0. Net profit, freedom. I closed the book. The audit was over. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt truly, deeply at peace. It's been 3 years now since that long winter. My house is no longer a stage for a sad play. It's a home filled with light and laughter and the things I love. The pottery I make, my clumsy watercolor paintings, the smell of herbs growing on my windowsill. I've learned that a mother's love shouldn't be a blank check. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to stop enabling, to let someone finally face the consequences of their own choices. It's not about revenge, it's about self-preservation. I've also learned about forgiveness. Not the kind that lets people back into your life to hurt you again, but the kind that lets you release the anger and pain from your own heart. I've forgiven Kevin, not for his sake, but for mine. I deserve peace. I hear things, now and then. Tiffany left him and moved to California. Kevin, I'm told, hit rock bottom. He lost everything. But then, about 6 months ago, I received a letter. The handwriting was shaky, the pages tear-stained. It was from him. He didn't ask for anything. He just said he was sorry. He said he was trying to become a man his father would have been proud of. He said he loved me. I haven't written back. Not yet. Some wounds take a long time to heal, but for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Not that we could ever go back, but that he was finally, truly, on a path to finding himself. My life is quiet now, and it is good. My legal fortress is still in place, but I don't feel like I'm hiding behind it anymore. My world has expanded. I have my pottery class, my book club, my wonderful, kind neighbors. I've learned that true wealth isn't measured in dollars and cents, but in peace of mind, in the joy of creating something with your own 2 hands, and in the quiet strength of the woman who smiles back at me from the mirror each morning. I am Susan Miller. I'm a mother, a widow, a retired accountant, but more than anything, I am finally, wonderfully, myself, and that, my friends, is the best bottom line of all. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. If it resonated, I'd be so honored if you'd give it a like, share it, and subscribe for more stories from the heart. And please, leave a comment below. I truly believe that in sharing our stories, we find our strength.